Hey friends, Peter here, and in this video I will be talking about how to paint a dirt texture. Besides using photo references and referencing 3D scans, I will also be studying the style of this texture by Belgian artist Ulrich Wary. Let's get started. First, open Photoshop and create a new square document, 2048 by 2048, 300 pixels per inch. I'm going to create a new layer and let's name it Base. Now with a dark brown color, we're going to fill the background, and with a lighter brown color, we're going to begin painting some streaks and blobs. Now begin to refine those blobs you've put down. You can add some visual interest by varying the sizes of your shapes, so putting some smaller shapes next to the larger ones, and these will effectively be our clods of dirt, and they will make up the majority of our texture. Once you have something in your base layer, create a new layer called Pebbles, and create some small rock shapes. Try to group them together. Give them friends because otherwise they'll be lonely and they will stick out more when we go to tile our texture. We kept our pebbles and base color on a separate layer because now you can go down to the base layer and using a lighter brown color, paint in some details and texture. And this will all show up underneath the pebbles that you have above. Early on, I recommend working with the Photoshop canvas as zoomed out as possible so you can see the whole picture. But when you go to detail small things like the rocks and our pebbles here, I would recommend zooming in so you can see what you're doing. These pebbles are our areas of interest, so I want you to go in here and start adding some shading to them. Give them strong highlights with a lighter color and make them really feel like they're a hard surface object. And then start to blend them a little bit more with their surroundings because everything around them is supposed to be the squishy dirt. So when somebody steps on it, it will have gotten compacted into the environment. Now that I've shown you how to detail that one small area, we're going to apply that technique to the entire texture. So basically what I'm doing is taking the lighter brown colors and adding more texture to the soil and dirt part, and I am taking the lighter beige color and adding some more highlights and shadows to the pebbles. At this stage, I also recommend trying to blend together different types of colors. So here I'm primarily using reddish orangish browns, but you could also add in a little bit of yellow here and there. And that's because I'm looking to create this feeling that the dirt is rich soil. It has some nutrients in it and it's not completely dried out. Maybe if your dirt is in a barren wasteland, then it might have some more blues and grays in it. Or if it's in the jungle, it might have some greenish teal tints to it. So that could be something that you want to play around with in order to add some visual interest so it's not just one flat brown color. I'll zoom in on the rocks one more time to show you that whole process again. So here we have a small clump of the pebbles, and we want to add some visual interest, but we don't want to change their size too much because if the pebbles are too large, they will stand out when we go to tile the texture. So one thing we can do is bury some of them at different angles and add harder highlights to some and less highlights to others. Now we can zoom out and finish texturing our dirt. So make sure you're checking any patches that you see don't have the same amount of contrast. We don't want any one area to be too bright or too dark. So you can do that by adding little dots here and there or blending it together with some larger brushy strokes. Once you've got your texture looking mostly good, it's time to make it tileable. So merge any layers that you have together, we only need one, and go to Filter, Other, Offset. And you'll want to offset it by half the height and width of your document. So in our case, it's 1024 by 1024, and that will show you where the seams in your image are. Now you can just use the same techniques that we've been doing to paint over those hard lines. As you're cleaning up your seams, make sure that you note any areas that have either high contrast or large areas of flat color, and you break those up with either more pebbles or additional cracks. Those sections will stand out when you go to tile your texture by a large amount, so we can get rid of them right now. Once you've finished brushing up your seams, you can get back to your original image by repeating the offset that we did earlier, and it's time to clean up any final details. Namely, this is just finding any lonely pebbles and making sure that they have friends, and adding maybe extra dots in the darker areas. Here I added desaturation to the whole image because I felt like it was too bright. And then I tested out the texture by going to Edit, Define Pattern, and then Layer, New Fill Layer, and Pattern. If you change that percentage to something less than 100, then you can see that it is tileable. And there you go. There is your tiling hand-painted dirt texture. As always, please let me know if you have any questions, recommendations, or requests in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. Until next time.